Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I was pulling into the driveway after a week-long business conference in Chicago when I saw her silhouette in the living room window. Sarah was pacing back and forth, which usually meant she'd been rehearsing a conversation. After 3 years together, I'd learned to recognize the signs of an impending discussion. The conference had gone exceptionally well. I'd closed 2 major deals worth nearly $500,000 in combined revenue and gotten positive feedback from the regional director about a possible promotion to district manager. The promotion would mean a significant salary increase and better benefits, something I was looking forward to sharing with Sarah. I'd even picked up a small gift for her at the airport, a book by her favorite author that had just been released. Instead of the warm welcome I was expecting, I walked into what felt like a carefully orchestrated tribunal. "We need to talk," she said before I'd even set down my luggage or removed my jacket. I could see she'd prepared extensively for this conversation. Her laptop was open on the coffee table with what looked like bullet-pointed notes. She'd changed out of her usual weekend attire into her good jeans and the blue cashmere sweater I'd bought her for Christmas. Her hair was done, makeup applied. This wasn't a casual Sunday evening chat. "Okay," I said, setting down my suitcase and the gift bag. "What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath, like she was about to deliver a presentation to the board of directors. "I've been doing a lot of thinking while you were gone. About us, about where this relationship is heading, about what I need from a partner, about whether we're truly compatible long-term." I waited for her to continue, settling into the armchair across from the couch where she'd positioned herself. "You have 7 days to prove you're worth staying with. 7 days to prove you can prioritize me over your career, prove you actually care about this relationship as much as you claim to, prove you're the man I need you to be for the future I want to build." The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire. I looked at her sitting there with her rehearsed speech and her expectant expression, clearly waiting for me to ask for clarification, beg for specifics, or start making desperate promises about how I'd change. Instead, I stood up calmly and picked up my suitcase. "Good news," I said, my voice steady and clear. "You won't need all 7 days. I can save us both some time." Her face went completely blank. This wasn't the response she'd scripted in her mind. "What do you mean by that?" "I mean exactly what I said. 7 days is more than enough time to figure this situation out completely." I headed toward the stairs with my luggage. Behind me, I could hear her getting up from the couch, her voice taking on a slightly higher pitch. "Where are you going? We need to discuss the parameters of this. We need to talk about what I need to see from you." "No, Sarah, we don't. You've made your position crystal clear. You need 7 days to evaluate whether I'm worth keeping around. I respect that process completely." She followed me upstairs, her tone becoming more insistent. "That's not what I meant. You're supposed to ask me what you can do better, what specific changes I need to see, what behaviors you need to modify." I set my suitcase on our bed and looked at her directly. "I'm not going to audition for the role of your boyfriend. If 3 years of shared experiences, building a life together, and consistent partnership hasn't demonstrated my worth to you, then 7 more days of me jumping through arbitrary hoops isn't going to suddenly change your perspective." "But that's not how this works," she protested. "You're supposed to fight for us." "I am fighting for us. I'm fighting for a version of US that doesn't require one person to prove their value on demand." The next morning, I woke up at my usual 5:30 a.m. and went for my regular 6-mile run through the neighborhood. The morning air was crisp, and the familiar rhythm of my footsteps on pavement helped clear my head. When I returned to the house 45 minutes later, my phone showed 3 missed calls from Sarah. She was still asleep, so I quietly gathered some clothes, toiletries, and work materials and moved them to the guest room down the hall. I wasn't making a dramatic gesture or trying to punish her. This was simply practical relocation to give her the space she'd requested for her evaluation process. When she found me making coffee in the kitchen an hour later, she stared at the small pile of my belongings visible through the guest room doorway. "What exactly are you doing with your things?" "Giving you space to conduct your evaluation without any interference from my presence." Her voice rose slightly. "The 7 days haven't even officially started yet. We haven't established ground rules or discussed what this process looks like." I poured my coffee into my travel mug and looked at her calmly. "You asked me to prove my worth over 7 days. Step 1 is demonstrating what it looks like when someone who knows their value doesn't waste time on pointless exercises designed to make them dance for approval. Her phone was buzzing constantly with notifications. She'd clearly been texting someone, probably her sister Katie or her friend Rachel, about the situation, likely seeking validation for her approach. "You're being completely ridiculous about this," she said, her frustration evident. "This isn't what I wanted to happen." "Then what exactly did you want to happen, Sarah?" She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. Because the honest answer was that she wanted me to panic, to beg her for specific criteria I could meet, to spend the week desperately trying to guess what would make her happy and secure about our relationship. I wanted us to work on improving our relationship dynamics. Working on a relationship requires both people participating as equal partners. What you delivered to me last night was an ultimatum with a countdown timer. I grabbed my gym bag and laptop case, preparing to head out for my normal Monday routine. "Where are you going now?" "To the gym, then to the office. You know, my regular Monday schedule. While you're evaluating whether I'm worth keeping, I'll be maintaining the standards and routines that make me someone worth keeping in the first place." By lunchtime, she'd call me 6 times. I let each call go to voicemail, not out of spite, but because I was genuinely busy with work and didn't see the point in interrupting her evaluation process with unnecessary communication. When I returned home that evening around 7 p.m., I found her in the kitchen with takeout containers from Rossini's, our favorite Italian restaurant. She'd set the dining room table with our good plates, lit candles, and was clearly expecting this to serve as some kind of reconciliation dinner. "I got your favorite," she said, trying to sound casual and upbeat. "The seafood risotto you always order, and I got the tiramisu for dessert. That was thoughtful of you, but I already ate dinner." She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "You already ate dinner? Where?" "I grabbed something after work with my colleague Mike. We were discussing the Chicago conference results, and it ran late, so we just ordered from the place next to the office. I didn't want to assume we'd be eating together during your evaluation period." "You're taking this way too far." I sat down at the kitchen counter, maintaining a comfortable distance from the romantic dinner setup. "Am I taking it too far? You told me you need 7 days to decide if I'm worth staying with. I'm giving you exactly what you requested, space to make that decision clearly. But you're supposed to be trying to win me back. You're supposed to be making an effort to show me why I should choose you." There it was, the script she'd written in her head for how this week was supposed to unfold. "I'm not interested in winning anyone back, Sarah. I'm interested in being with someone who doesn't need to be won in the first place." Her face flushed red with frustration. "You're deliberately twisting my words and making this harder than it needs to be. I'm taking your words at face value. You have 6 more days to decide if I'm worth keeping. During that time, I've already decided what I think about someone who puts established relationships up for periodic review." She tried shifting to a different approach, her tone becoming more conciliatory. "Look, maybe I phrased the whole thing wrong. I wasn't trying to be manipulative. I was just feeling like we've been drifting apart lately. You work such long hours, and when you're home, you're usually on your laptop answering emails or listening to those business podcasts. The extra work hours are because I'm being considered for promotion to district manager, a promotion I've mentioned to you several times over the past 2 months. The business podcasts are research for investment strategies that would benefit both of our financial futures. But what about quality time together? What about prioritizing our relationship over your career ambitions?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my calendar. "Last month, I planned a weekend trip to Napa Valley that you canceled at the last minute because Rachel was having what you called a relationship emergency and needed your support. 2 weeks ago, I suggested we take that couple's cooking class at the community center that you'd mentioned wanting to try, and you said you were too busy with your book club's special events committee. Last weekend, I kept both Saturday and Sunday completely free for us to spend together, but you spent Saturday at your sister's house helping her redecorate and Sunday at a baby shower for someone from your yoga class that you didn't invite me to." She was quiet for a moment, clearly not expecting me to have specific examples ready. "That's different, though." "How is it different?" "I don't know, it just is. Those were important things." I finished my water and stood up from the counter. "I'm going to give you complete space to think clearly about what you want from this evaluation. I'll be staying at the Hampton in downtown for the remainder of the week." Her eyes widened in genuine shock. "You're actually moving to a hotel?" I want to make sure your evaluation process isn't influenced by my daily presence here. You need to experience what life actually looks like without me in this house, contributing to household responsibilities, being available for conversation and companionship. This is completely insane. This is thorough. You're making an important decision about our future. You should have all the relevant data to make an informed choice. But hotels are expensive. You're wasting money just to prove a point. I'm investing in clarity. For both of us. Tuesday morning, I followed my exact normal routine. Gym at 6 a.m., shower, coffee, review of my work schedule, then off to the office. My phone had been buzzing with notifications since I woke up. 12 missed calls and 17 text messages from Sarah, all received between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. At lunch, my brother David called me. "Sarah's been calling, Mom," he said without preamble. "She says you two are having serious problems and you've moved out. Sarah's taking 7 days to evaluate whether I'm worth staying with. She has until Saturday to make her decision." Wait, what? What did you do wrong? Nothing, according to her. She just needs time to think about whether I'm worth keeping around. He was quiet for a moment, processing this information. And instead of fighting for her or trying to change her mind, you're just letting her evaluate you? I'm respecting her stated need for space while conducting my own evaluation. Your own evaluation? Of what it means to be in a relationship with someone who sees love as conditional and subject to periodic review. He chuckled despite the seriousness of the situation. Damn, how's she handling that approach? Based on the frequency of her phone calls, I'd say her evaluation is proceeding faster than she anticipated. Want to grab dinner tonight? You sound like you could use someone to talk to who isn't trying to evaluate your worth. Actually, yeah, that sounds perfect. We met at Murphy's, our usual sports bar where we'd been going since college. Over burgers and beer, I explained the complete situation in detail. "So she literally gave you an ultimatum," he said after I finished. "Delivered as a formal presentation, complete with notes. And instead of panicking and begging her to tell you what she wants, you're just respecting her process?" I'm respecting her process while conducting my own evaluation of what this reveals about our relationship dynamics. He took a long drink of his beer and grinned. "You're evaluating her right back." I'm evaluating what it means to be with someone who thinks ultimatums are appropriate tools for relationship maintenance. My phone buzzed with yet another call from Sarah. I glanced at the screen and let it ring through to voicemail. How many times has she called today? 23 times since this morning. Yesterday it was 15. Sounds like her evaluation is going really well. It's certainly providing her with a lot of data about what life looks like when someone isn't constantly available to reassure her about their commitment. Wednesday brought an escalation in Sarah's tactics. I was at the hotel working on quarterly reports when the front desk called my room. "Mr. Thompson, there's a young woman here in the lobby asking to see you. She says she's your girlfriend and that it's urgent. Could you please let her know that I'm not available for visitors during the evaluation period she requested?" "Of course, sir. Should I give her any other message?" "Just that I'm respecting the process she established and don't want to interfere with her decision-making." 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I could hear traffic and the ambient noise of the hotel lobby in the background. "Please just talk to me," Sarah said, and I could hear the frustration and desperation in her voice. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. This isn't what I wanted. You have 4 more days to complete your evaluation. I'm not going to interfere with that process by discussing the potential outcome before you've finished your deliberation." This is crazy. I was just trying to get your attention, to make you realize how important our relationship is. Mission accomplished. You have my complete attention focused on this evaluation process. I miss you. I miss talking to you. I miss having you here in the evenings. That's valuable information for your decision-making process. You should definitely factor that into your evaluation. You're talking to me like I'm a stranger. I'm talking to you like someone who's currently deciding whether I'm worth keeping in their life. I think professional courtesy is appropriate under the circumstances. That evening, her sister Katie called me, clearly having been briefed on the situation by Sarah. "What the hell did you do to my sister? She's been crying for 2 days straight." I gave her exactly what she asked for, space to evaluate our relationship. "She said you moved out over some stupid fight." She didn't mention the ultimatum she gave me. Silence on the other end of the line. "What ultimatum?" I explained the situation in detail. Katie listened without interrupting. She actually told you that you had to prove your worth to her? 7 days to prove I'm worth keeping, to be exact. Jesus Christ. And you just left? I'm giving her the space she needs to make an informed decision about our future. Katie was quiet for a long moment. You know, she's been acting weird lately. Ever since Rachel got engaged last month. Asking a lot of questions about commitment timelines and why some guys propose quickly while others take years. That's interesting context I wasn't aware of. Look, I think she just got spooked about where your relationship was heading. You know how she is about needing security and having clear plans for the future. Someone who's genuinely concerned about relationship direction sits down and has an adult conversation about their concerns. They don't issue ultimatums with countdown timers. That's actually a really fair point. I wouldn't put up with that kind of manipulation from my husband. I appreciate you calling, Katie. It means a lot that you care about both of us. For what it's worth, I think she realizes she messed up, but she's too proud to admit it directly. Pride is an expensive luxury when it comes to relationships. Thursday brought yet another shift in Sarah's approach. I was at my usual Thursday evening gym session when I noticed her car in the parking lot. Through the windows, I could see her sitting in the passenger seat while her friend Jessica sat behind the wheel. They were clearly waiting for me to finish my workout so they could stage some kind of confrontation or intervention. I completed my normal routine, 45 minutes of cardio and weight training, followed by a shower, then left through the back exit that led to the employee parking area. I'd parked my car on the street specifically to avoid predictable locations, so I walked around the block to reach it. My phone buzzed as I was driving away. A text from Sarah, "We need to talk immediately. This is getting completely ridiculous." I responded, "You have 3 more days to complete your evaluation. I'm committed to respecting the process you requested and not interfering with your decision-making." Her reply came within seconds. "Stop saying that. I don't want to evaluate anything anymore." My response, "That's your choice to make. You established a 7-day timeline. You're free to conclude early if you've gathered sufficient information." Jessica texted me an hour later. "Dude, what is wrong with you? Sarah is a mess. Just talk to her." I replied, "Sarah asked for 7 days to decide if I'm worth keeping. I'm giving her exactly what she requested. If she's unhappy with the process, she can end it at any time." Jessica, "She didn't mean it literally." Me, "Then she shouldn't have said it literally." Friday morning marked day 5 of the evaluation period. I woke up feeling something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Genuine mental clarity and emotional peace. The hotel room was quiet. My schedule was entirely my own, and I wasn't walking on eggshells around someone's unpredictable moods or unspoken expectations. I realized that over the past several months, I'd been gradually losing pieces of myself trying to anticipate and manage Sarah's various dissatisfactions and insecurities. I was having coffee in the hotel lobby, reading the Wall Street Journal, and planning my day when my phone rang. Sarah's mother, Mrs. Chun. "Now what's all this nonsense I'm hearing about you two breaking up?" "Good morning, Mrs. Chun. We're not broken up. Sarah is taking time to evaluate our relationship and decide if she wants to continue it." "Evaluate what exactly? You're a lovely couple. You have good jobs, you're stable, you're kind to each other. Sarah feels she needs 7 days to decide if I'm worth staying with." The line went completely quiet for several seconds. She said, "What to you?" I repeated Sarah's exact words from Sunday evening. "That girl," she muttered, and I could hear genuine disappointment in her voice. "Her father and I didn't raise her to treat people like they're products she's considering purchasing." "I appreciate you saying that, Mrs. Chun. You know, she's been acting strange lately. Ever since her friend Rachel got engaged a few weeks ago, asking all sorts of questions about commitment and marriage timelines and financial security. Several people have mentioned that pattern. Don't give up on her entirely, dear. I think she's just scared about the future and handling it poorly." "I'm not giving up on anything, Mrs. Chun. I'm just not willing to audition for the role of her partner when I've been successfully playing that role for 3 years." "That's a very mature perspective. I'm proud of you for handling this with such dignity." That afternoon, I had a scheduled consultation with Dr. Elena Martinez, a licensed relationship counselor I'd found through online research. I wanted a professional perspective on the situation before making any final decisions. "Ultimatums are fundamentally about power and control," she explained from behind her desk in a calm, professional voice. Someone who truly values the relationship and has genuine concerns addresses those concerns directly through honest communication. They don't create artificial crises or impose arbitrary deadlines. So this isn't normal relationship communication. This is textbook emotional manipulation. She's creating false urgency to make you prove your commitment in ways she can measure and control. It's a way of exercising power over you while making you feel like you're the one who needs to change. And the fact that she's panicking and calling constantly when I'm not playing along with the script she wrote, that tells you the ultimatum was never really about evaluating your relationship objectively. It was about creating a dynamic where she held all the power and you performed for her approval. The session lasted an hour and confirmed what I'd been thinking throughout the week. This wasn't about us growing apart or needing to reconnect. This was about Sarah needing to feel like she controlled the terms and conditions of our relationship. What would you recommend as next steps? I asked. That depends entirely on what kind of relationship you want to be in. If you want a partnership between equals, this behavior pattern is incompatible with that goal. If you're willing to accept a dynamic where one person periodically puts the other on trial, then you might be able to work through this. That's very helpful clarity. Thank you. That evening, Sarah tried yet another approach. I was having dinner at a quiet restaurant near the hotel when she walked in alone. She'd clearly been watching my location somehow, probably through the location sharing we'd set up months ago for practical reasons. She approached my table hesitantly. Can I sit down? Just for a few minutes? Of course. She sat across from me, and I could see she'd been crying recently. Her eyes were red, and her usual polished appearance was noticeably disheveled. I hate this, she said without preamble. I hate that you're staying in a hotel. I hate that we're not talking. I hate that everything feels so formal and distant between us. Those feelings are important data for your evaluation process. Stop calling it that. I don't want to evaluate anything. I just want things to go back to normal. What's normal, Sarah? Us living together, talking every day, making plans together. The way things were before. Before what? She was quiet for a moment. Before I messed everything up with that stupid ultimatum. So you recognize that it was an ultimatum? Yes. And it was wrong. I see that now. I set down my fork and looked at her directly. What made you think it was appropriate in the first place? I don't know. I was scared, I guess. Rachel's engagement made me start thinking about our future, and I realized I didn't know where we were heading. Instead of just talking to you about it, I thought if I created some urgency, it would force us to figure things out faster. By putting me on trial. That wasn't how I thought about it. But that's what you did. She nodded, tears starting to form again. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry. I appreciate the apology. But apologies don't change what this week has revealed about how you view our relationship. What do you mean? You don't see me as an equal partner. You see me as someone whose position in your life needs periodic review and validation. That's not true. Then explain why. When you had concerns about our relationship, your first instinct was to give me a deadline to prove my worth rather than suggest we work together to address whatever issues you were feeling. She didn't have an answer for that. You have 2 more days to complete your evaluation, I said gently. I suggest you use them to think carefully about what kind of relationship you actually want. Saturday morning, day 6, brought an unusual sense of calm resolution. I'd slept better than I had in months. No anxiety about Sarah's mood when I woke up. No mental preparation for walking on eggshells, no second-guessing my own reactions to her emotional states. I was reading in the hotel lobby when my phone buzzed with a text from my brother. How's the great evaluation going? I replied, concludes tomorrow. I think we're both getting the clarity we needed. You sound different. More like yourself. I feel like myself again. Whatever happens, I'm proud of how you've handled this. Thanks. That means a lot. Around noon, I received an unexpected call from Rachel, Sarah's friend whose engagement had apparently triggered this whole situation. I hope you don't mind me calling, she said. Sarah gave me your number months ago for emergency contacts. Not a problem. What can I do for you? I wanted to apologize. I think my engagement announcement might have caused some of this drama between you two. How so? Sarah's been asking me a lot of questions about how Mark proposed, how long we dated before he popped the question, what made us ready for that step. I think she was comparing your relationship timeline to ours. That's interesting context. For what it's worth, I think what you two have is really solid. Mark and I moved fast because we're both impulsive people who make quick decisions. But that doesn't mean slower is wrong. I appreciate you saying that. Sarah's been my friend since college, and I've never seen her as happy as she's been with you. I think she just got scared and handled it badly. Fear can make people do things that don't represent who they really are. Exactly. I hope you two can work this out. That afternoon, I met with a financial advisor to handle some practical matters. During our 3 years together, Sarah and I had accumulated joint savings accounts, shared investment portfolios, and combined some insurance policies. Nothing legally binding since we weren't married, but I wanted to understand the implications of complete separation. It's all pretty straightforward to untangle, the advisor explained. Since you're not married and there are no shared property ownership issues, everything can be separated cleanly. You might want to document the process thoroughly, though, in case there are questions or disputes later. I spent the rest of the afternoon organizing all the relevant paperwork: bank statements, investment records, insurance policies, lease agreements. Everything was legal, documented, and completely fair. No vindictive moves, no attempts to gain advantage, just practical separation of our combined financial lives. My phone rang at 8 p.m. "Sarah, as expected. Please don't go through with this," she said, her voice sounding completely exhausted. "We can work this out. We can fix whatever's wrong. You have one more day to complete your evaluation as originally requested. I don't need another day. I choose you. I choose us. I want to stay together. But I haven't finished my evaluation yet." "Your evaluation?" The surprise in her voice was genuine. Turns out 7 days is exactly how long it takes to understand what it means to be with someone who treats love as conditional and subject to periodic review. What does that mean for us? It means that while you've been deciding whether I'm worth keeping, I've been deciding whether I want to be kept by someone who thinks that's an appropriate way to handle relationships. The line was quiet for a long moment. "And what have you decided?" "You'll find out tomorrow when we both present our conclusions." Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crystal-clear mental peace I hadn't experienced in months. I'd slept deeply, woken naturally without an alarm, and felt completely aligned with my own values and priorities for the first time in recent memory. At exactly 10 a.m., my phone rang as expected. "Okay," Sarah said, her voice nervous but determined. "My evaluation is complete. I want to keep you. I want to keep us. Can we please meet somewhere and talk? I'm glad you've finished your evaluation. I've completed mine as well. So we can fix this? We can meet and discuss our conclusions. The coffee shop on 5th Street in 1 hour?" "Yes. Thank you. I'll be there." I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early and chose a table in the back corner. Neutral territory, public space, easy exit routes if the conversation became difficult. Sarah walked in exactly on time, looking like she hadn't slept well. She'd clearly prepared extensively for this conversation. She was carrying a notebook and had obviously thought through what she wanted to say. She sat down across from me and immediately launched into what was clearly a carefully rehearsed presentation. "I know I handled this entire situation wrong from the very beginning," she said, speaking quickly as if she was afraid I might interrupt. "The ultimatum was stupid and unfair and manipulative. I was scared about where our relationship was heading, and instead of talking to you honestly about my concerns, I thought maybe if I created some urgency and pressure, it would help us figure things out faster. I realize now that it was emotionally manipulative and hurtful. I love you, and I want to work on building a stronger relationship together. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this and rebuild your trust in me." She paused, clearly expecting a response that would indicate forgiveness and reconciliation. "I appreciate your honesty," I said calmly. "And I believe you mean everything you just said right now." Hope flickered in her eyes. "But here's what this week taught me about our relationship dynamics." I pulled out a manila folder I'd prepared and set it on the table between us. Her expression shifted to confusion and a hint of concern. "This is a complete timeline of our week," I said, opening the folder to reveal organized documents. "Your ultimatum, delivered as a rehearsed presentation rather than arising from spontaneous conversation. Day 1. You called me dramatic and ridiculous for respecting the evaluation process you had specifically requested. Day 2. You tried to manipulate the situation by posting on social media about being proud of me, attempting to signal that everything was normal when you knew it wasn't. I pulled out printed screenshots of her text messages and call logs. Day 3, you admitted to me directly that this entire situation was triggered by comparing our relationship to Rachel's engagement rather than any genuine concerns about our actual compatibility. Day 4, you enlisted Jessica to help you stage a confrontation at my gym, trying to force a public scene where I'd have to respond to you. Sarah was staring at the documentation like it was evidence being presented in a courtroom. Day 5, you recruited your family members to call me and pressure me to end the evaluation period early. Day 6, you tracked my location and showed up uninvited at the restaurant where I was having dinner, trying to override the boundaries you yourself had established. I laid out additional pages showing the frequency and timing of her calls and messages. Every single day of this week, you attempted to manipulate the evaluation process you claimed you needed. You didn't want 7 days to think objectively about our relationship. You wanted 7 days to watch me perform for your approval while you retained complete control over the outcome. That's not what I intended, she said, her voice getting smaller. Maybe not consciously, but intentions matter less than actions. And your actions revealed exactly how you view this relationship. How do I view it? You see me as someone who needs to prove his worth to you rather than someone whose worth you already recognize. You see our relationship as something that requires periodic validation rather than something that's built on mutual respect and trust. She was quiet for a moment, clearly struggling with how to respond. People make mistakes, she said finally. I can learn from this. I can change. I'm sure you can, but not with me. Her face went pale. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not interested in being someone's learning experience. I'm not interested in being with someone who needs to put our relationship on trial to feel secure about it. But we're good together, she protested, her voice rising slightly. 3 years of building a life together, all our shared experiences, all the plans we've made for the future. We built those things under the assumption that we both valued each other unconditionally. This week proved that assumption was incorrect. I closed the folder and leaned back in my chair. You wanted 7 days to evaluate my worth. I used the same 7 days to evaluate what it means to be with someone who sees love as something that needs to be earned rather than shared freely. So that's it. You're just giving up on everything we've built? I'm not giving up on anything. I'm choosing my own worth and dignity over someone else's uncertainty about both. Tears were starting to flow down her cheeks. Please don't do this. I love you. I really, truly love you. You love the idea of me. You love what I provide for you, how I make you feel, the security and stability I represent in your life. But you don't love me enough to treat me with basic respect as an equal partner. I stood up from the table and put on my jacket. You spent a week trying to make me prove I was worth keeping. I spent the same week proving to myself that I'm worth more than being kept. What am I supposed to do now? Whatever you want. You're free to find someone whose worth you don't need time to consider. Someone who doesn't mind being periodically evaluated. Someone who enjoys performing for approval. I walked toward the door, then turned back for one final thought. For what it's worth, I genuinely hope you do learn from this experience. I hope your next relationship is with someone you never feel the need to test or evaluate, because that's what real love actually looks like. It looks like choosing someone completely and then never questioning that choice. As I left the coffee shop, I could hear her crying behind me. Part of me felt genuinely sorry for her pain, but a much larger part felt something I hadn't experienced in months, complete alignment with my own values and self-respect. I drove back to the hotel to check out and collect my belongings. Tomorrow I'd start looking for a new apartment, somewhere that was entirely mine, decorated according to my own tastes, organized around my own routines and priorities. The relationship was definitively over, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Not the version of myself that had been gradually worn down by trying to anticipate and manage someone else's emotional states, but the confident, self-assured person I'd been before I started walking on eggshells. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah as I was packing. I'm sorry I put you through this whole ordeal. I hope someday you can forgive me for treating you so badly. I thought about responding, then decided against it. Some conversations don't need a reply, and some apologies are more about the person giving them than the person receiving them. Instead, I texted my brother, "Want to grab dinner tonight? I have some good news to share." His response came immediately, "Hell yes." How did the great evaluation conclude? Exactly as it should have. I'll tell you everything over dinner. Proud of you, brother. Murphy's at 7? Perfect. Because despite everything that had happened, I did have genuinely good news to share. I'd spent 7 days rediscovering my own worth, and that was absolutely worth celebrating. The week had started with Sarah's ultimatum about me proving my value to her. It ended with me proving something far more important, that a man who truly knows his worth doesn't wait around for other people to recognize it. He either finds someone who already does, or he's perfectly content being alone until that person appears. As I finished packing my suitcase and preparing to leave the hotel, I realized something that made me smile. Sarah had been right about one thing. 7 days was exactly the right amount of time to figure everything out completely. She just hadn't realized she wasn't the one doing the evaluating. That evening at Murphy's, my brother listened to the entire story over beer and burgers. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. You know what's crazy? He said finally. A week ago, I would have told you to fight harder for the relationship. But hearing all this laid out chronologically, she really did try to manipulate you every single day. That's what made it clear this wasn't about the relationship having problems. It was about her needing to feel like she controlled the relationship. And now? Now I'm free to find someone who doesn't need to test love to feel secure about it. Any regrets? I thought about it honestly. I regret that it took an ultimatum for me to see the pattern clearly. I should have addressed her manipulation tactics months ago instead of making excuses for them. But you're good with how you handled this week. Completely. I stayed true to my values, maintained my dignity, and got absolute clarity about what I want from a partner. Which is someone who sees love as something you build together, not something you earn from each other. My phone had been quiet all evening, no calls or texts from Sarah. I suspected she was finally understanding that the situation was truly over. Monday morning, I started apartment hunting. Tuesday, I found a place I liked, a one-bedroom with great natural light and a view of the park where I ran every morning. Wednesday, I put down a deposit and scheduled the move for the following weekend. Thursday, I ran into Katie, Sarah's sister, at the grocery store. "How are you holding up?" she asked, and I could tell she genuinely cared about the answer. "I'm doing really well, actually. Better than I have in months." Sarah's not doing great. She's been staying with me and Rachel, trying to process everything. I'm sorry she's struggling. I never wanted her to be in pain. She knows she messed up. Really knows it. She's been talking about maybe getting some counseling to figure out why she felt like she needed to test you. That sounds like a healthy step for her. She asked me to ask you if there's any chance. I shook my head. Katie, I care about Sarah as a person, and I hope she finds happiness. But some things can't be fixed, only learned from. I understand. For what it's worth, I think you handled everything with a lot of class. I appreciate that. 2 weeks later, I was settled into my new apartment and back to my normal routines. Work was going well. I'd gotten the promotion I'd been hoping for. My personal life felt calm and authentic in a way it hadn't for months. I was having coffee one Saturday morning when I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Sarah. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I started therapy. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I wasted 3 years of your life." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. You didn't waste anything. We both learned what we needed to learn. I hope therapy helps you build healthier relationships in the future. Her reply came an hour later. "Thank you for being kind. You deserve someone who never makes you prove your worth." "Everyone deserves that," I replied. "Including you." That was our last communication. Clean, respectful, final. 3 months later, I met Jennifer at a professional networking event. She was smart, funny, and had the kind of confidence that comes from knowing her own value. When she mentioned she was looking forward to a weekend hiking trip, I found myself saying, "That sounds amazing. I've been wanting to get back into hiking." "You should come with me sometime," she said. "If you're interested." I'd really like that. It was that simple. No games, no tests, no evaluations. Just 2 people recognizing something good and choosing to explore it together. 6 months later, when Jennifer told me she loved me, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Not because I'd proven myself worthy of her love, but because we'd built something together based on mutual respect and genuine partnership. "I love you too," I said, and meant it completely. That night, as we were falling asleep, she said quietly, "I'm really glad we found each other." Me too. And I was. Because sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is someone giving you an ultimatum that forces you to remember your own worth. Sarah's 7-day evaluation had been the catalyst I needed to stop accepting less than I deserved. The week that started with someone questioning my value ended with me never questioning it again. And that, more than any relationship, was the real victory. I never did need all 7 days. I just needed long enough to remember who I was when I wasn't trying to earn someone else's approval. Turns out, that person was someone worth keeping. The right person would see that immediately. The wrong person would need 7 days to figure it out. And that difference tells you everything you need to know.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.